All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a deep dive into what is, without a doubt, one of the most important strategic documents for the Indian Ocean, India's 2015 Maritime Security Strategy. And trust me, this is way more than just some naval paper. It's really a vision, a roadmap for the country's entire future on the high seas. So let's get into it.
And you don't even have to read far to get the scale of this thing. Right there in the foreword, they lay it all out. They call the 21st century the century of the seas for India. Think about that for a second. This isn't just about defense anymore. We're talking about the oceans being the main engine, the key enabler for India's comeback on the world stage. It's a massive statement of intent, right from page 1.
But that really begs the question, doesn't it? It's one thing to have this huge, grand vision. It's another thing to actually pull it off. I mean, in a world that's getting more complex by the day, with all these shifting alliances and new threats popping up, how does a nation actually go about securing its destiny on the water? That's the core problem this whole strategy is designed to tackle.
So to really get why this strategy is so crucial, we have to first understand the stakes. What's really on the line here? Why is maritime security such a big deal for India? Well, the answer, it really comes down to a few absolutely mind-boggling numbers.
Let's kick things off with this one, 90%. Just think about almost everything in your home. The stuff you buy, the stuff you use, a staggering 90% of India's trade by sheer volume travels by sea. That's almost everything. It just shows you how incredibly dependent the country is on keeping those sea lanes open and safe.
And okay, what about the money side of things? Well, even if you look at the value of all that trade, it's still a massive 70%. This just hammers home the point. The seas are literally the economic arteries of the nation. If there's a problem out there, a blockage, it's not just some story on the news. You feel it right in the heart of the economy.
But this next number, this one might be the most critical of them all. 93%. That's India's total sea dependence for oil. We're talking imports, offshore production, the whole shebang. It is, without a doubt, the country's energy lifeline. You cut that off and everything grinds to a halt.
So when you put all that together, what does it mean? It means that for India, maritime security isn't just some abstract military concept they talk about in strategy rooms. No way. It is fundamentally, inextricably tied to the country's development. Secure seas mean a secure economy. They mean stable energy, and they mean the potential for growth continues. It's really that simple and that profound.
Okay, so that brings us to the what. We know why protecting the seas is so important, but what actually changed? What happened that made them say, hey, we need a whole new strategy here in 2015? Why wasn't the old playbook good enough anymore?
Well, this timeline really tells the story. Back in 2007, India's strategy had a pretty straightforward title, Freedom to Use the Seas. But then, just 1 year later, 26/11 happened. The terrorist attacks on Mumbai completely changed the game. The fact that the attackers came from the sea, that was a massive wake-up call. It exposed a vulnerability that no one had taken seriously enough, and it proved that the biggest threats might not come from an enemy warship. That one event, right there, forced a total rethink, and it led directly to this new 2015 strategy.
And this really gets to the heart of that shift. The focus had to get way broader. It couldn't just be about traditional threats anymore, other countries' navies and military hardware. Suddenly, they had to deal with this whole new world of non-traditional threats. We're talking maritime terrorism, piracy, smuggling. These are threats that are messy, unpredictable, and often backed by shadowy groups that are much harder to track and fight.
And the result of that rethink was this brand new, much more holistic approach. Just look at the title, Ensuring Secure Seas. That name alone tells you a lot. It's not just about ensuring your own freedom to use the seas anymore. It's about creating a secure environment for everyone. It's got tackling the full spectrum of challenges, all the way from a major naval conflict down to coastal policing.
All right, so we've covered the why, the economic lifeline, and the what, the changing threat landscape. But now for the big one, the how. How does India actually plan to pull this off? Well, the strategy breaks it down into a really comprehensive 5-part plan.
And here are the 5 pillars of that plan. First, you've got deterrence, basically being strong enough that nobody wants to start a fight in the first place. Then, you have the plan for conflict, for what to do if a fight is unavoidable. But it's not all about fighting. A huge part is shaping a favorable maritime environment. That's all the diplomacy, the joint exercises, building relationships with other navies. Then, of course, there's coastal and offshore security, a direct lesson from 26/11 to plug those gaps. And finally, looking to the future, there's force and capability development, making sure the Navy has the right ships, the right tech, and the right people for the job. It's a genuine 360-degree approach to security.
But here's a key thing about that 360-degree plan. It recognizes a simple, crucial fact. The oceans are massive. No single country can secure them alone. So a huge piece of the how isn't just about what India does by itself, but how it works with others. The strategy is built on the idea that the ocean is a shared space, and so its security has to be a shared responsibility.
And this is a really big deal. It marks a major pivot away from just acting alone and towards what they call cooperative engagement. The whole document is filled with language about building partnerships, improving communication with other navies, and making sure their forces can work together seamlessly. The end goal here is to create this network of friendly nations all working together to keep the seas safe for everybody. Now, this whole idea of cooperation and partnership builds up to what is really the ultimate ambition of the strategy. It's a concept that truly defines the role India sees for itself in the region, becoming a net security provider.
So what on earth does that mean, net security provider? Well, it's actually a pretty simple but really powerful idea. It means being a country that puts more into regional security and stability than it takes out. It's about not just looking after your own backyard, but actively helping to make the whole neighborhood safer for everyone. It's about being that stabilizing force, that reliable partner that helps protect the maritime commons for the benefit of all.
And honestly, this entire philosophy is summed up perfectly in the SAGAR vision. SAGAR is an acronym that stands for Security and Growth for All in the Region. This really elevates the whole thing beyond just military talk, doesn't it? It connects maritime security directly to shared prosperity, to economic growth for everybody in the Indian Ocean. It paints a picture of a peaceful, collaborative future built on a foundation of safe seas.
So, we've seen the whole picture. From India's absolute reliance on the seas, to the wake-up call of 2611, to this comprehensive new strategy built on strength, partnership, and this grand ambition to be a security provider for the whole region. It's a powerful blueprint, but here's the final thought. The world doesn't stand still. As the seas get more crowded, more competitive, and more contested every single year, how will this strategy need to adapt to face the challenges of the next decade?